Outside Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's home, and I got a few details. Apparently, he went to kill him. His name was Nicholas John Rosk, 26 years old, from California, upset about the shooting in Uvalde, and impending Supreme Court decisions on abortion and guns, federal affidavit says. According to the Times, the man was armed with a pistol, a knife, and other weapons that included a black tactical chest rig and tactical knife, pistol with 2 magazines and ammunition, pepper spray, zip ties, a hammer, a screwdriver, a nail punch, a crowbar, a pistol light, and duct tape. Sheesh. Now, before we talk about this, let's visit some of the rhetoric from Jen Psaki and Chuck Schumer, fueling the anger and emotion around the Supreme Court decisions from that leaked memo. We all remember the mostly peaceful protests from the fake news media, but did you guys remember this?
So I know that there's an outrage right now, I guess, about protests that have been peaceful to date, and we certainly continue to encourage that outside of judges' homes, and that's the president's position.
Taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these.
What's going on, everybody? So those are just a few clips, but the guy was arrested outside Kavanaugh's house, had a lot of different weapons, a lot of weird stuff. I want to say this real quick just to be accurate and fair. I don't believe that people in politics and in the news should be charged with like radicalizing somebody. You know, I'm not trying to suggest that, because they could say Tucker did that, Trump did that, you did this. You know, that really infringes on our First Amendment. So I don't want to be a hypocrite when it comes to the left and say, oh, I think this and that. No, I want to just be honest, and I don't think anybody should be charged or anything, but I do want to tell the truth. When it comes to the rhetoric on the media, you know, they're always talking about, well, look at that person, look at Joe Rogan. And I just thought of Joe because he has such a big podcast. But if you listen to Joe, he's like such a chill person. You know, you listen to me, I'm super, super chill. You listen to the media. I'm going to play a clip of like The View in a little bit. They're like full-blown psychopaths. Maybe I'll just play it now, because it's like these people, you know, they're always talking about this. Oh, he's radicalizing him. Who radicalizes people, in all fairness, more than the mainstream media? They're full-blown psychopaths. They're constantly just covering up crime and covering up like deadly, you know, protests and arson, like during the George Floyd riots. I understand that people are upset, and I understand a peaceful protest, but those were not peaceful protests. And it's not like these people came on television and were like, hey, everybody calm down. You know, we can't have like you killing like David Dorn and all these people, like just chill out. It's more like, oh, let's bail them out of jail. Oh, let's act like it's mostly peaceful. So the fact that we have an even playing field, like when I tell people that event's stupid, don't do that, don't, you know, versus them where they act like it's not even happening, you know, it's a totally different ballgame. But just listen to the dummies on The View. Like, this is them today.
Most AR-15 owners are former military, 35 plus and married. So that's all I'm saying, is that they're not just crazy people.
Okay. Here's the thing. Once black people get guns in this country, the gun laws will change. Trust me.
All right, first of all, actually, to be fair, I don't know if that was today or this week or something. I saw it on Twitter. But it's like she's out there getting applauded for saying, oh, once black people get guns in this country, the law will change. Like, what do you mean by that? Because there are no racial gun laws in this country. Every ethnic group has the same exact laws of owning firearms. The Second Amendment applies to everyone. So it's like, this is the type of rhetoric they're constantly spewing on television. It's like angry, nasty, race-baited, cover-up riots, cover-up arson. I was in Los Angeles the time the George Floyd riots happened. Literally, like, there were cop cars on fire. I tried to escape the city. No joke. It was like playing Grand Theft Auto, where like we had to turn down like a side street / alleyway just to not get jumped. Like, people were running at our car. They didn't even care what our politics were. They didn't care if I supported George Floyd or I'm left wing or right wing. They're like coming with like craze in their eyes, looking like they're about to attack us. We had to turn down a side street. Like, the whole city was absolute mayhem. And then I turn on the television and I see mainstream celebrities bailing criminals out of jail, mostly peaceful protests with a fire behind him. So this is the point I'm trying to get to. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite and say that Chuck Schumer and Jen Psaki, you know, like should be charged. Of course not. For their rhetoric, they're not responsible for this psychopath who went to Brett Kavanaugh's house. And if you're just joining, you can rewind the video when it's done and watch the beginning where I give the details of what happened, how he got arrested, you know, what he was radicalized by, maybe the abortion laws and the, you know, the gun legislation / Supreme Court rulings that'll be coming in the future at some point. But, you know, when I look at the Democrat politicians, the media, and what they're saying around the Supreme Court justice, I don't hear rhetoric like, and conservatives, to be fair, conservatives that are wild and doing stuff like that, they could be called out as well. But it's like, they're not saying, hey, go vote. And, if you win, then you get a Supreme Court justice. Because Biden's in office right now. It's like, you get the next Supreme Court justice. That's how it works. No, it's like, you don't know what's going to hit you. You don't know what's coming. We're coming. Here we come. It's like, for what? What are you trying to do to Brett Kavanaugh? Are you trying to bully him / threaten him into agreeing with you? Because that's psychotic and possibly illegal if you take it to like an extreme case. I don't even like Brett Kavanaugh. I'm going to be honest. I don't like Amy Coney Barrett. I call her Amy Phony Barrett. I mean, she rules in favor of forced vaccination. I thought she was going to be a fraud from the jump. I'm not saying she's terrible. Some things she'll rule good on, but I don't even like either of them. I didn't like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but I'm not telling people to go, tell her how to. She's not going to vote the way you want her to vote. The best way to get Ruth Bader, you get what I'm saying? When it's her time, rest in peace, she passes, someone else will come. You want it to happen naturally, not like psychotically. Like, yeah, Brett Kavanaugh leans conservative, but he's also somewhat of a, in my opinion, left-winger when it comes to certain things. Amy Coney Barrett, she's more conservative. However, she's not even, she's no Clarence Thomas, in my opinion. And, these left-wing judges are left-wing. It sucks. It's not ideal, but the last thing you want to do is try to ramp up hate, emotion, and tell people to pretty much harass and threaten these people so that they rule in favor of you. And that's really the rhetoric that I see from the Democrats. It's like, it's not like, yeah, let's get inspired and vote. It's like, a whirlwind's going to hit you. You're not going to know what hits you. And it's like, dude, people are already freaking out because you're freaking them out on television all the time, And then you guys make it worse like this. So just to wrap it up, I don't want to stay too long. I might read a few comments and see what you guys are saying. But first of all, there was an attacker at Brett Kavanaugh's house that said he wanted to kill him. According to federal affidavits, it was the Uvalde situation, upcoming gun, rulings and upcoming abortion rulings that radicalized and inspired him. Also, he had a plethora of weapons. If you rewind to the beginning of the video, I went through all of those according to the report. And, I think he is individually responsible for what he did. I don't think Schumer and Psaki are responsible or should take responsibility for it. However, what I am saying is I think our media, I just talked to Jim Brewer, a comedian. I was just on his podcast, and he was talking about, funny guy, great guy. He was talking about how evil he thinks the media is. Like, Jim's a super nice guy, but you could tell how passionate. He was like, I will not apologize for saying how evil and wicked the media is. And it's like, it's so true. They constantly spread fear. They constantly spread emotion. One of their bigger sponsors is like Big Pharma. They're just throwing pills at everybody, crappy foods. They don't care about us at all. When a tragedy happens, they exploit the tragedy, get people angry, get people emotional. You could watch politicians, like literally when something bad happens, I tell people, listen, you could be upset, obviously. I'm not telling people to be a robot, but I always tell people, don't be angry. You don't want to be angry and emotional. If you're in a boxing fight, you can't be angry or emotional, or a UFC fight, because if you're angry and emotional, that's when you mess up. That's when you're irrational, that's when you're illogical, and that's when you lose. So even in reality, it's like, I'm not saying there's not certain emotions, but if you want my personal opinion, I never tell people to be angry because I don't think anger is an emotion that really has benefit. I think you can get upset and it's not great. And maybe if there's like a rock falling on your head, like run away. But as far as, and I'm not saying I don't ever get angry or anything. I'm just saying it's not an emotion that I think is something worthwhile. Like when I get super angry at something, usually I regret it because it's like, yeah, I was upset, but I could have handled that better. They're on television, be like, be angry, be mean, go get revenge. It's like they're telling people to be emotional because they know that emotional people are easy to exploit and gain. And if there was no emotion, we would come to a logical agreement that both parties are screwing us over. They're stealing too much of our tax money. They're taking our rights, and they don't even remotely care about it. So it's so sad to see what happened at Brett Kavanaugh's house, but this is the world that we're creating. It really is. Somebody shot Steve Scalise a couple years ago, and it never gets the same media coverage. And you have racial tensions in this country. It's not just a normal thing. It's partially a normal thing that some people feel, just throwing more crap on it by the mainstream media. They just make it 20 times worse, 30 times worse, shake people up, piss people off. That's all they do. And I know Chuck Schumer knows what he's doing. I know Jen Psaki knows what they're doing. And to be fair, I know a lot of right-wing analysts know what they're doing. There's a lot of angry, conservatives too. And it's like, when you're angry, you just become, you attract what you get. And then you get the two sides, you fight over each other. And the top people at the top of the pyramid look down at everybody and laugh hysterically like, oh, these dummies, they don't even, it's like we're controlling both sides and they're fighting each other over nothing. So, I pray that this type of stuff stops, but it's kind of like all the violence in our country. It's like, how is the violence in the south side of Chicago? People are getting murdered all the time. I just see 10 people dead, 12 people dead, 15 people dead. This is crazy. Thousands of people are dying. Children, women, innocent people in Chicago all the time. But it doesn't serve the agenda of the elites in the Democratic Party and the media, because it's crime within a certain ethnic group that they want to act like it doesn't happen, even though it really does. Everybody knows, so nobody just wants to say it. And also, it doesn't have a political agenda. They run the city, and also they're exploiting certain racial tensions to create a narrative, and this isn't good for that. So it's like they will literally let tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, you throw in heart disease, diabetes, the crappy foods they put in inner cities, millions of people dying all the time. I mean, then you put in drugs and fentanyl and illegal drugs as well. Tens of millions of people are dying all the time, but there's no conversation about it, because everybody should realize they don't actually care about us, or they'd be talking about all that stuff. And when it comes to a situation like this, it's like, what I'm trying to say is I don't think this type of stuff is going to stop, unfortunately, because you have a mental illness problem in this country. People are just getting more and more mentally ill watching mainstream media, the fear, the emotion. That's why they're so mad at podcasts and independent people. I don't spread anger. I don't spread fear. I spread comedy. I spread self-awareness. I tell people you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So you can't spend your whole life trying to worry about what everybody else is thinking and doing, because at the end of the day, people aren't always going to listen to you. And when you hone in on that, that's actually when you get people to hear you, because it's like more believable. And that's the type of energy I spread. And these wicked, nasty people on mainstream media that are radicalizing people 1,000 times more than me and making people mentally ill and angry and jacked up on pills, these are the ones sitting saying, oh, we want to get rid of podcasts. We need to get rid of Joe Rogan and Anomaly. It's like, you guys are the radicalizers. I tell people, Anomaly, what do you think about this? I'm like, no, that's not the end. They want you to be angry. They want you to start thinking crazy things. That's when they catch you, and then they turn it into a 5-year spectacle. So it's like, that's the last. I'm de-radicalizing people as the mainstream media is radicalizing them. And I'm not saying it only happens on one side, but I've never in my lifetime seen something as bad as like the mainstream Democratic normal. When something like January 6th happened, which, if you want to count, to be fair, violence and arson, etc., way smaller than the George Floyd protests. The only difference was, one, it affected a political process, which is not good, but also, two, it affected politicians. So now all of a sudden they care about it. You burn your own neighborhood, you go destroy major cities, they don't care. The second you come to their doorstep, all of a sudden they're so concerned. And I'm not saying it makes it right. I'm just saying these people don't give a crap what you do in your own neighborhood, just don't bring it to their area. And once again, not justifying it, just being honest. And then, you see what happened on January 6th. And most Republicans are condemning the violence that happened. Most Republicans are condemning like the group of people that were like doing actual illegal stuff. I mean, and then you go to the left wing when the George Floyd riots are happening. I'm not saying the right wing's perfect, but mainstream politicians are like, yeah, like, I don't agree with that part. I don't agree with that part. You go to the left-wing George Floyd riots, they're acting like it's not even happening. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, it's mostly peaceful. Let's bail them out. It was like a week of riots. It wasn't just one day and everyone's like, oh, that was not what it was supposed to be. It was like a day. Like, I remember it was like day 3. It's like, oh, they're going to go pretend to peacefully protest. Then they're going to burn a bunch of crap. Then they're going to burn cop cars. And then the criminals are going to come in from the inner cities and they're just going to start looting stores because there's so many distractions that they can get away with it. It just kept happening, and the left-wing media was pushing it. And then after all of that, you had major sports leagues with billions of dollars of power and influence really adopting Black Lives Matter, which, by the way, is a Marxist left-wing organization disguising themselves as a racial social justice organization. When that far left-wing guy got kicked out of San Francisco, Chesa Boudin, you had one of the LA chapter, BLM people being like, oh my God, that's so bad. Sean King, oh my God, I can't believe he's kicked out. It's like, they're not just like objective Black Americans. It's like they're extremely political. So you now have people throwing a fit, rioting, destroying stuff, and the NFL's rewarding them and the NBA's rewarding them. So, I'm not trying to justify there's bad things in Republican media, Democrat media. There's angry people on both sides. Emotions, tensions are rising for sure. But I really feel like, as a fair person that's willing to call out both sides, there's nothing more wicked and evil than the Democratic media and the Democratic politicians. They are constantly just stirring the pot. They are constantly just telling people to freak out, get emotional. I watched CNN for 10 minutes. It's on when I was eating lunch the other day, and I'm like, Oh my gosh. It's like, and I don't even like Fox News. Don't get it twisted, but it's like, I'm like, people watch this stuff. No wonder they're mentally ill. No wonder they're freaking out. So it's like, this is my message. I know it's probably going to fall on deaf ears where it needs to be heard the most. That's okay. But really, to the politicians, to the media, do your part in de-radicalizing people. Do your part in being honest and objective, and do your part in not leading people towards violence and mental illness, because although you guys run around like you're Mao Zedong of information, you really are the number one perpetrators in this country of radicalizing people. So I find it just absolutely fascinating that the biggest radicalizers are the ones always accusing everyone else. Oh yeah, I'm so bad. Have you ever even listened to my streams? I never preach violence. I preach self-accountability, self-awareness, working out. I've had dozens of people tell me, Anomaly, I lost 100 pounds, 60 pounds listening to you, inspired me. Yeah, they hate me so much because I'm taking away from their heart disease. That's one of the biggest killers in America, and they don't even care. So it's like, oh, this guy's like saving people, helping people get fit. If you're not overweight, you're not going to be on as many pills. So I don't think the politicians in the news like that. We're on to you snakes. We're on to you liars. We're on to you wicked deceivers. And I pray that left wing or right wing, people do it the right way. And not the wrong way, because it's very hard to act like the media didn't really radicalize people these last couple months. And in my opinion, they radicalize people all the time. And there's perpetrators in right-wing media as well, but modern day left-wing media, if I was to be objective, I don't even like Brett Kavanaugh, but it's like, people are like, yeah, like, we got to go really like vote, and we don't like these people. We got to stand up for our communities. And on the left wing, it's like, yeah. It's like, they're acting as if the violence and the burnings and stuff at their protests aren't happening. It's just disgraceful. But once again, that's just my take. Let me know yours. Maybe I'll do a few comments and I'll try to keep it under 18 minutes. Let's see what you guys are saying. Kelly said, thank you, Anomaly. I appreciate it. Someone said, this is a great comment. Ari Y said it's a culture of exploitation. That's all they do is exploit. And you got to think these people in politics and media know they're doing it. I think they know they're doing it. That's why I try to look into the camera sometime and call them out. I might not have as much money as you. I might not have as much influence as you. I mean, maybe I do, but it's like I have the truth on my side. So it's like I want to look. It's like you don't sound real when you're reading these scripts. You sound like a robot. You sound like somebody that's just being told to do this. It doesn't feel passionate. I don't believe you, but when you hear me, you believe me because I mean what I'm saying. So, I don't have all this money, influence, etc., but I do have my voice. I do have a soul, and I want to let them know you're not doing your part to de-radicalize people. You're not doing your part to make the country better. You know what you're doing. You're not looking at all sides of violence and being like, how do we stop this? You're covering up some of the most violence, some of the most bloodshed. You're responsible for some of the most bloodshed when it comes to a worldwide scale. Oh, if you invade a country, that's a war crime. Now we have to stop doing trade with Russia. Thank God other countries are afraid to stop doing trade with us, because if every country treated us like we treated Russia, people would have stopped doing business with us 15 years ago. And Russia is invading their neighbor. We're invading countries halfway around the world. And I'm not a self-hating American. I'm just saying it's like, the media causes more war, more violence, more mental illness than anybody. And they try to gatekeep all their wickedness and be like, oh, these podcasts talking about physical fitness, that's the real problem. Oh yeah, Joe Rogan, the guy who is like in good shape for his age, who talks about jujitsu and like self-defense and working out, yeah, and like eating meat. Oh yeah, that's the real problem, not you disgracefully lying to the nation, selling pharmacy pills and just crappy foods all the time. Oh yeah, you're so great on top. You guys are the biggest frauds, But this guy, he deserves, in my opinion, First Amendment, stands firm. Anybody that you're in control of your own life. Don't ever use it as an excuse. Unfortunately, in this country, though, there's a lot of people who tune into the wrong stuff and get the wrong ideas. But, I do think even though those people, I think, are influencing the country for the worst, it's this guy's responsibility and this guy's only. You can't start blaming the news and the media and politicians and trying to charge them for that, because it goes both ways, and they're going to start doing the same thing. You say hold the line, they're going to suggest that you mean something else. You get what I'm saying? That's why I'm very careful with my wording nowadays. We don't live in 1970s or 1980s. First of all, I have a big influence, so I'm very careful about what I say, unlike the mainstream media, who's just nasty and angry all the time. But also, it's like, they're waiting for people to slip up and try to twist your words. So I try to be very careful, where I'm always like, peacefully, don't like, because you could say one word and they're like, what did you mean by that? It's like, not what you think. Appreciate it, Steve. Appreciate it. everybody. I'm going to keep this under 20 minutes. God bless you guys. And really, really quick, I'm going to be recording today a new secret podcast. It's going to be secret podcast number 3 on the Dream Rare podcast secret stash on patreon.com/rare talk. So if you like my stuff and want to hear more, I'm going to do a nice long podcast today. We have 2 secret ones that you can only get subscribing there. Appreciate everybody on Facebook and YouTube.